Welcome back to the Purpose Podcast. My name is Travis Holden. I'm a man of action. I walk with growth, honor, and faithfulness. I'm a warrior of the kingdom, ignited with purpose from the one most high. So you already know who I am. I got my friend Hunter here with me today. And Hunter is just somebody who, he goes to the gym with me 4 or 5 days a week.
Oh, yeah.
And the dude just gets better every single day. Like, even from just when we started going to the gym to now, and just seeing how far he's came. And even like with the business that we work for, I hear him talk about it all the time. I'm going to let him tell his story a little bit, but just how he just continues to grow and get better than he was yesterday. And that's like truly amazing. And I'm going to let him talk a little bit about what he does and kind of how he's grown so much.
All right, guys, my name is Hunter. I work with this guy. I'm an IT specialist. I created a system that everybody uses at work, and I continue to keep developing that until it gets better, until everyone wants that.
And he means build a system from scratch, pretty much,
From
if
the
anybody,
ground up.
to throw that into perspective, if
I had
anybody's
to
ever...
learn all the training on the job. I only had certifications that qualified me for the job, and they paid for the rest, and it's been such a great learning journey, and I love to learn. It never stops.
Yeah, I see that every single day, even in the gym. He's asking me questions and, and just like picking my ear about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And even I don't even know how long we've been working out, probably like a month and a half, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 2 months. And just like seeing how far he's come out, he picks up, more weights than he did last week. It's just crazy to see that. I think that's amazing. I mean, that's what you shoot for, is to get better than you were yesterday, and to, lift more, to grow, to learn more than you did, last week or the day before.
Definitely.
That's like the whole meaning of life, like seeing that, and it's like, what am I going to be a month from now? Where am I going to be 6 months from now, a year from now? I think that's a big step.
Oh, yeah. All right, a little bit about myself. I grew up in a pretty good household, other than the total of 3 to 4 divorces I've been to between my mom and my dad on separate occasions. First one was 6th grade. Didn't really affect me a whole lot. I was about 12 years old. I liked the sound of 2 birthdays, 2 Christmases, 2 holidays. Okay, I could get with that. But
Yeah.
I saw the animosity between my parents, and I could tell it was kind of happening even before they announced it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty calm about it. I mean, I would get affected a little bit at school. My nerves were probably a little less because I was also at a new public school for the first time. And I definitely got suspended a few times. Might have been from divorce, might have been anger issues. I really didn't know. First topic I want to cover is anger. I've always struggled with anger issues since I was a baby, basically. My mom told me I would crawl across the floor to go hit her.
Yeah, and me, I was the complete opposite of that. I feel like I was always pretty cool, calm, and collected. So hearing that's the complete opposite, and I can't even really relate to ever being angry, because all I ever did was really bottle everything up and just shove it deep inside. It's
Yep.
all my emotions, and you put it over here in the corner, just stack everything on top of it. That's how all my feelings were. I felt like growing up, and then so you release anger is
Yeah, that was the one I couldn't keep bottled up very long. But it's not super healthy to bottle up all your emotions. I'm a result of bottling up too much and then exploding. So I was a pretty happy baby other than times I crawled across the floor to hit my mom for some reason. I don't know. There's just some sort of evil that got in me at a young age. When I was growing up with my older brother playing video games, anytime he beat me, I beat him up with a controller. To the point where if playing PlayStation 2, our PlayStation 2, on my controller, which was player 2, you just spin in circles. I beat the crap out of that controller on my brother's knee. I was a terrible younger brother to him. I still feel bad about it, but he can laugh at it now.
Yeah, that stick drift is insane, man.
Oh, yeah. It was you play Tony Hawk 4, and you just spin in circles.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I busted something in that controller, probably everything in that controller, honestly. I felt really bad about that. And over the years, I kept getting worse, and then I would bash my head on the floor, concrete, wall, I didn't get my hands on in the moment. It just came over me, and I had no control over it. And then one day, a friend of my mom's, Miss Diane, from the church we went to at the time, came over, prayed over me, and I believe she anointed me with oil too. And ever since that day, the anger was controllable. I could now tell when it was coming, prevent it, and keep my mind off of it. Anger still comes up once in a while on me now. If something like really stresses me out, or road rage, I mean, we all get road rage though. Especially in a big city, you
100%.
can't avoid it.
It's, yeah, especially here in Gainesville, man, you leave it. Doesn't matter if you're going like a mile down the road, it's taking you 30 minutes to get home normally. That's just how it is.
I watched someone flick someone off on my way here. I was like, what just happened?
I seen like we were at an event with Steve Weatherford, and we heard him talk about like he wears all the Jesus is King shirts and all this, like the people that he leads all have the Jesus is King shirts, and I heard him talk about before. He's like you can't really flick somebody off with the Jesus is King shirt on if somebody cuts you off in traffic or something. And it's just like that's so funny because like no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, I still have to be on my best behavior wearing the Jesus is King shirt or talking about that or being someone who really like influences others.
Mm-hmm. Now I road rage. I don't roll the windows down there. There's no point. I release it so it doesn't bottle up later, and that's probably the best, and that's the only anger I pretty much allow myself and I'm okay with. A good way to combat that so you don't turn out the way I did when I was younger is find a vice that's healthy. I got into drumming in 2019. I also got into working out. And I got all my frustration out on the drums especially, and also in the gym, and that was probably the best thing I did for myself was discipline myself and get all the anger out. So whenever I encountered someone, there was nothing left.
And I feel like going to the gym is a good habit to get into for anybody.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like it just releases so much. Like you release your anger and your depression and your anxiety. You release a lot of especially as a man. You don't really want to release that and tell that to someone. Like sometimes you're not comfortable doing that. But at least if you go to the gym, you're able to get something off your chest, and you leave feeling better than you did whenever you came in. Like every single time, I feel like, I'm in the habit of going in the mornings, and I swear every single time, like I leave feeling way better than I came in, and you just walk in feeling better, and throughout your entire day, I think it's like a study that's like proven, it's like the next 10 hours of your day after going to the gym is just better. You feel more energized, you're more positive, you're just super happy and just have an overall just like better personality leaving the gym. And I can see that. In days I don't go, I walk around like a zombie.
Yeah.
Like it's wild.
I'm motivated unless I'm in the gym. Like if it's the weekend, it's my rest day, I'm probably not going to do anything. Most Saturdays I don't do anything. I go visit friends and families. This is the best recharge I can do. But I believe I think there's scientifically proven there's like a huge serotonin as well as other hormone boost you get from going to the gym that benefits both males and females. So always find a healthy vice when it comes to anger. Don't bottle it up. If it happens, walk away, cool down. Don't blow up on someone. I
think you actually sent me this video I watched this morning with this Bible verse in it that like really speaks on that. That's James 1:19. It says, "Know this, my beloved brother, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not prove the righteousness of God." So pretty much like as soon as something bad happens to you, you don't always have to react. Or if you're met with this bad news, you don't always have to react, but you don't always have to speak. You can wait. Like, like I've heard everything, I know what's happening, now let me speak. And I think that speaks a lot of a life in itself. Whenever we were at that event with Steve Weatherford, like he wasn't quick to speak whatsoever. Like he was up in the top corner by himself, but you just like knew like that's the man up there. And he's like a lion ready to attack. Like whenever he needs to go, but he's good to just sit back and listen and let me see what's going on. And you want me to meet? Like, yeah, let me shake your hand. Like it's just like boom. Like that's how a lot of stuff is.
Yeah, I learned a lot about listening. When I was younger, I was a man of very few words, super introverted. You wouldn't know it now, but I learned how to listen. So I had an aunt while she was alive. She would talk to me. If someone was 4 hours on the phone, and all I would say is, okay, yes, no. Very few words, and it just made her day me listening. And I learned as an introvert that was probably the best thing I could do because I didn't want to talk anyway. Even around family, I was like shy. And then it wasn't until I got into ROTC in high school and retail, I became extroverted, but I'm still kind of a hybrid. I remember taking a test in 9th grade English that said somehow, I don't know how, but you're an extrovert and an introvert all in one. I'm like, hey, I know I'm unique, and that just proves it even more.
No, I've always been, I mean, I'm, like you said, like, I've always been a natural introvert. Like, I've always really kept to myself. I've talked about this in a couple podcasts. I always felt like an outcast. Like, you know, we'd group up in circles, and I'd be the one to, like, never speak, never say anything, never speak my mind. But I really definitely developed a, like, ear for listening, like, 100%. If you told me something, I could go on and, like, I could repeat it to you, like, a week from then. Like, what you said in that exact moment, that's just, like, how I was. Because I was, like, so good at listening, and that's, I think, what carried me in school. And Mom was so good in school, because I definitely wasn't smart, but I was so good at memorizing stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, that's what made me pass tests. Like, I could write something down and I'd just remember it. I didn't have to really study too much.
Yeah.
I was never really a good test taker, but I still got through. I mean, I graduated high school with, like, a 4.2 GPA, and I played 5 sports, and I was not smart, like, whatsoever. It's just being obedient and doing what you're supposed to do, and just listening in class. That's all it was.
So another topic I want to discuss, jealousy. Growing up, I was jealous of my brother from the treatment he got from my grandparents. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of backstory on that I didn't know as a kid that definitely would have helped me not be jealous was that when my mom had my brother, his dad didn't want him, so he walked out. And my mom was pretty much the one to raise him, and then she was living with her mom at the time, so my grandma practically raised him, and later along the line, my step-grandpa came into their life, and he raised him as well. So growing up, there were times where they just wanted him only over there. Or I saw special treatment towards them, and he was like a favorite of me and my cousins. So I was just like, well, I don't really want to go over there unless I'm with my cousins, because I don't feel the same. So it was like when my brother's over there, it was like a whole different mood, everything. But looking back now, I realized that was just a lot of wasted energy being jealous, because I didn't know they raised him, and now I know that. It makes so much sense. Like, obviously you're going to treat someone different if you almost raised them like your own child. So treating them differently probably wasn't the best.
Were y'all super close, like you and your brother?
We weren't when I was younger, but after we both took ROTC, we learned a lot about each other, and we learned to tolerate our, like, minor annoyances. We learned to just love each other. So now we're, like, pretty close. I mean, we live about an hour and a half away now, but we still talk, like, basically like a best friend.
Yeah.
He's my half brother, but we're pretty close. Like, we were really like rambunctious, like real siblings would be. I have a lot better relationship with my brother than I ever had when I was younger. We talk, we can send each other like memes and stuff, or we'll just, whenever we hang out, it's like a reunion. It's like, he lives about an hour and a half, so he's in Lady Lake, we're in Gainesville. And I don't see him a whole lot, but I do need to reach out to him more. I am trying to get him closer to God. He has fallen away a little bit from some relationships that definitely made him tuck his manhood away, we'll say. I don't want to get too much into detail about that, but it's very clear he's strayed away from who God made him to be. Because I remember my mom telling me, over and over, she'll come up, every time I talk to my mom, she'll bring this up, we're talking about my brother. He would call people when he was a toddler on the phone. He'd pick up the phone, hi, how are you? Do you know Jesus? You know he died for your sins? That kind of thing. And he was that kid. And then somewhere in his growing up, he stopped being that and stopped showing his boldness for Christ. And I don't know why, but I want to be the one to get him there. I also want to somehow get him to talk to my dad again, because they had a falling out a few years ago that I've given to God at this point, but I still want it to happen, because they've missed 4 to 5 years of each other's life now. Like, so much has happened, and I hate it.
It's wild. And I feel like a lot of people say this, and I just wanted to touch on this a little bit, is like having a relationship with somebody, you look at it and it's like having a relationship with your parents. You know, it's like we're almost like, you know, you didn't call me. so I'm not going to call you. You know, it's
Right.
like, it's supposed to be 50-50. The phone works both ways. But like, no, like you put in 100% and then you just do everything you can to have a relationship with that person,
That's
to
right.
talk to them, to, you know, to really like just build the relationship and develop a relationship. Like we expect, you know, our parents aren't going to be around forever.
Right.
You know, like our brothers are, you know, the people we're close, they're not going to be around forever. So it shouldn't be just them calling you all the time. Like, not just you calling, like you also need to call them, and you probably need to put in way more effort than they are.
Oh, yeah.
Just to talk and to communicate and just make sure everything's okay, to tell them I love you. Like that's a big thing that I feel like people our age like don't really think about, right?
No, we get so distracted by gaming, social media, like the world, our job, that we forget.
Yeah, we're like
Our
so
family.
worried about money and paying bills
Yes,
and
yeah.
making sure that we have groceries, and
It's
especially
so
like
easy.
stepping out of college and having all this new stuff to like
You got to take
keep
on
us
all kinds of
busy.
responsibilities.
Yeah, to like really keep us busy, that we forget like why we're growing up. Like our parents are growing old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we forget that sometimes.
They're
And
people too. You gotta
100%.
talk to them. Like, I'm glad that even though through divorces, my mom and I've been pretty close. We've never been closer
Mhm.
than we are now. Like,
Yeah.
there was one time she lived 4 hours away from me in Fort Walton Beach when I was in Eustis, and we'd video chat. And that was the only time I could see my mom because I wasn't going out there. I didn't have a vehicle
Mhm.
at the time. She wasn't coming down, and that made us grow apart. But when they had me move over here for a great opportunity that God laid out for me, it was like from that day our relationship just got so much better. Like I teared up, so I cried the entire time during her last wedding. I knew that this was the man God had placed in her life, and I knew she was safe, so I felt so much joy. And it wasn't sadness, it was pure joy that I couldn't hold back anymore. And that's definitely something we need to do more as men, is stop hiding all of our emotions. If you're crying out of happiness, let it out. There's nothing against it in the Bible. There's maybe society says something else, but I mean, we're called to be different. We're unequally yoked as Christians, and we have to be.
Yeah, and that's a lot of like me growing up and like building who I am today, like not having a voice. Like if I never spoke up or never had a voice, like I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't
Right.
have built the relationships I built with people, and I wouldn't,
Yep.
you know, like build these building blocks of life. It's like you wouldn't be the same person you are today if you didn't. Just seeing how far I've came in like the past year or two.
Oh, yeah.
Like same thing with you. Like I can see it, and I've only known you for really like known you for like
Right, yeah.
3 or 4 months now. You know, like I met him, what, probably
We met-
2-ish years ago,
No,
a
it
year and a
was-
half.
It was last year, right? Almost 2.5 years ago, I remember.
Yeah, like maybe 2 years ago, maybe somewhere around
Yeah,
there. We'll
somewhere
say
around
like 2
there.
years ago, and I was probably in like one of the darkest places I've ever been. And Hunter's seen me, like I was out every night, like pretty much at the bar, at the same bar. I was getting drunk, doing a lot of stuff that I shouldn't be doing, and he's seen me at my darkest place. And now he's seen me, I think, at probably one of the best seasons I've ever had in my life.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I can look back and definitely I felt convicted. That's what I.
Yeah, I felt like he said this to me. Do you want to share it? And then I'll
Oh,
like
yeah,
talk
go
about
for it.
how I felt. You go ahead.
So he recently started work with us at our company, and from the get-go, I was like, God is putting this on my heart to let him know how I felt and how I judged him at his worst. And at that time, I was trying to make someone else happy, trying to change them, and I was bringing myself down. And doing that, I was at this bar I hated to be at. I was only there so my friend didn't drink alone, and I always just felt like crap. I felt depressed. And then I don't know if it's discernment or what, but I can usually tell someone's character by the first interaction. But that time it got muddied. So when I encountered Travis here, I saw a dude who he just met. This is the time he met his fiance.
Yeah, the same time I met my fiance.
And I saw a dude just out here to drink, have a good time after work, probably isn't having the best time in life. And some of that was true, but that's not all he was. And I'm glad the Lord convicted me to tell him one day, like, hey, dude, I want to get this off my chest. You may not know it, but I judged you hard during that interaction, and I judged your fiance. I just want to apologize and say that's not who I was. That's who I was. It's not who I am. And I was in a bad point. And I can tell you guys weren't in a good point either. And
Yeah,
I
so
just got to
whenever-
get that out of my chest.
Whenever you told me that, and I was like, man, I've never had anybody tell me they didn't like me before. I mean, there probably is plenty of people out there that don't like me, but like I've never had anybody be like, dude, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like whenever I first met you, I didn't like you. I was like, well, at that point in time, like looking back on it, I didn't really like myself at that time.
Right, yeah.
Like that's probably one of the deepest, darkest holes you could be put in. And I feel like we talked about that on one of our podcasts where it's like everybody struggles at some point in time.
Oh yeah.
It's just maybe for different reasons, but your head's in the same place.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where I was at, and that's whenever I met you. And then looking back at that, I'm like, man, like Hunter did meet me at that time. So whenever I first started working there, I was like, man, he's gonna tell all these other people like I'm such a terrible person, and like, I didn't do anything like really wrong. I just wasn't in my right head like I am now.
Right. Yeah. I'm not one to gossip. I encountered this guy a few times at church. I felt. Because at that time I hadn't told you my conviction, so it just like I see you and I felt like I was being ignored, so I was like, oh, I feel like they know how I think about them, but at the end of the day, it's just like, no, you just didn't know me that well.
No, I didn't.
So you just
I didn't at all.
brushed past me several times, but every time I encountered you, I just felt more and more conviction until that's when you started work. I was like, all right, Lord, I'm doing it. I'm letting him know immediately.
And sometimes it's those like uncomfortable like situations that you have to kind of set aside and let somebody know so that you can really move on and go forward and build your relationship from there. Like if you didn't tell me that, I would have never knew, and like, maybe we both would have felt a little like uneasy about each other. You never know.
I mean, to be honest, when you first got there, I was like, oh man, is that guy from the bar? I gotta make things right or it's gonna be awkward every day at work.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it was.
So I knew immediately I had to
say something.
Yeah. For sure. So judgment obviously is something I struggled with. I think it mainly came from being a lukewarm Christian, which means I was a Christian my whole life. I wasn't really living like a Christian. I was judging heavily. I think that came from my dad being a narcissist, which is something if you have parents and they struggle, you've got to do better than them. Be the one who breaks that generational curse or just something your parent had alone so you can be different and learn from it and grow from it. So the judgment definitely came off from my dad, and I was judging people in my head. If I encountered someone in public, my dad and I would whisper something to each other in our ears, and it was just almost gossiping at that point, but I still struggle with judgment now. It's not as to the degree it used to be. And once I got baptized, I didn't really have the thought to judge anymore, really.
And it's not really with some people, it's not really the judging. It's more so like with me, I still do it. I feel like it's hard to get away from it. It's like more so comparing.
I think there is like a human nature of judgment that you compare yourselves to them. But at the end of the day, we're all different. You have no 100%. Right to compare. We have no right to judge as Christians because that is God's job.
For me, it's like, this is like, I feel like every man, it's so hard with like social media out there. It's like comparing yourself to like these different people. It's like, man, like, dang, that guy's way bigger than me. Or like, dang, that guy's hair looks so good. Or, like, you want a body like that, you know what I'm saying? Like something like that. It's so hard because you see it all the time on social media. And it's like these people freaking roided up sometimes. It's like, man.
I definitely compared myself to my brother when I was younger. So I'd be like, oh, Chase has a lot of friends. I wish I had friends like that. Why can't I have friends like that? Or, oh, he's so good at sports. Man, I suck at sports. I'll never be like that.
I heard this the other day. It was a quote. I can't remember where I heard it at, but it said the loneliest person and the loneliest man or the loneliest woman actually is the one with the most friends.
Yep.
And if you think about it, that just hits so hard. It's like it's almost like they're fake. In order to get those friends, they have to be somebody different.
Yep.
And if you only have a handful of friends, like you're so close and they know who you are, and it's just so different because they like you and they love you and they're with you because of who you are, not who you're pretending to be. Yeah. And you don't have to put on a mask. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be a chameleon and just blend in with all these different people all the time.
I learned that probably 7th grade in that middle school I went to. It was the first time in public school. And at some point I was like, you know what? Obviously I'm not going to fit in because that's not who I'm meant to be. Lord made me unique, and I will be uniquely me my entire life, because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm different. I can acknowledge that. I'm proud to say I am unique. I'm a bit weird. We all can be weird. And I kind of have a pride towards being unique, but I know it's not like a bad pride. It's just like, yeah, I'm just different and I'm okay with it. And if you don't like me, you don't have to be around me. So from 7th grade on, I was just like, I'm just going to find people who like me for who I am. And that's pretty much where I am now.
Yeah, I shouldn't have to change myself in order to be your friend.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I should be able to just be myself,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to hang out with me, and you want to come do stuff with me, and build a relationship with me, and get to know me. Like that's what a true friendship is.
Oh yeah, and even like work. If you have to be a different person at work, you probably should find a different job where you can just be yourself. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm myself every day at work.
100%, and I like how it's a different environment. Like
We have
where we
one
work
of the
at.
best work environments you could ask for.
We do, and I actually sent this to our manager today, sent him a message, and I was like, dude, I'm just gonna let you know, I've never seen anything like it. You somehow still bring up God, and you bring up God to not only the people we work with, but the customers, and they walk in. You somehow fit that in almost every single conversation. You make it less about business. You still able to make it a business, but you're able to almost make it like a ministry.
Oh yeah.
For the people at work and for the people who come in. You know what I'm saying? It's
sure.
It's just a totally different atmosphere that you don't see anywhere else.
Yeah. When I was in retail, I was like, it's okay. I'm just doing this till I can get my weight up.
Mm-hmm.
I can get my citizenship because I was born in Canada, and I can score really high on my ASVAB.
That's wild. When did you get your citizenship?
My citizenship, I've had it. Since my mom's American, I'm naturalized by birth. But according to the U.S. military, that's not good enough, and I had to get a Canadian passport to prove citizenship because birth certificate wasn't going to do it for some reason. I don't know why. So that took a little over a year to get, and I got that. I want to say that was 2019, 2020, around there. I can't really remember. But I was supposed to go Air Force. I had scored really high. I still have pictures of the highlighted jobs I got and can do. And I couldn't gain the weight at the time, probably from the stress of losing my dad, because at some point I was walking on eggshells every day. I love the dude.
Yeah.
We're much better now that we don't live together. But over time, you can get tired of someone, especially your parents. And that's why we, as men, we gotta leave the nest at some point. You gotta become the man.
Yeah, you gotta become a man. Like you said, the number one.
Yes.
You gotta be the first in your generation to maybe do something different, to be a little different.
Absolutely.
If your family doesn't go to church, you might have to be the first person to start walking in. You know, and you never know what you could influence an entire generation.
Gotta be a
the
difference
next generation
maker.
in line. Yeah.
And what drove me out of...
And a legacy builder.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
There you go.
What drove me away from the military overall is I saw all the stuff they were pushing. They were pushing something against my beliefs. If I don't want to take a shot of any kind, I shouldn't have to. You can't force it on me to the point where if I don't take that, I'm not going to the military. The Lord had a better plan for me, so I knew deep down, he had told me, all right, Air Force isn't for you. Because before that, I remember taking a field trip in ROTC in high school and be like, oh, I'm at the UF ROTC room. God is calling me to go in the Air Force. And I got emotional about it. And then it happened when he's like, I don't want you to go Air Force anymore. It honestly tore me up, but I was like, okay, God, well, what do you want me to do? And then when it was the time my mom got married and my stepdad owns a mower shop, and he's like, hey, if you want to move over here, I will give you a free place to stay and a full-time job, as long as you want. I said, well, that's better than living with my dad and being stressed and working at Publix and, not wanting to be home. Or I didn't want to be at work. I didn't want to be at home much because I just got tired of it. And the gym was like my escape. Video games my escape, but video games definitely got me into a lot of financial trouble, even just living with my dad. He's making me pay rent too. So when I moved over here to Alachua, it was everything started falling into place. I found Canvas. I found the Men of Honor group. That's how I got my job.
We love the Men of Honor group. We love Pastor Mark. We'll bring him up. Hopefully have him on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Because he'd be He's one of the
That's
best
probably
speakers
one of
I've ever
the
met.
best things I did for myself, besides like ROTC and other opportunities I had.
When did
in my
you,
adulthood.
this is like a good question, when did you start really like having a relationship with God? Like, cause I feel like you can be Christian like your entire life, but.
So it didn't really start until going to Canvas, and then 2022 is when I got baptized the first time in my life. I was emotional before, I was emotional under the water, out of the water, and I was emotional, like just so much came out of me that day that had been built up for years. And ever since then, it was like I can feel the Holy Spirit's presence during worship. When someone has a powerful prayer, I get like full body goosebumps, everything. And I've never felt that before. I'm like, this is a crazy feeling. I've got to let people know about this. Like, if you truly want to feel happiness and joy and have like a crazy experience, you got to find a relationship with God.
Getting baptized is crazy, and you can speak on it because you're like there the same day I got baptized pretty much, and the entire event, it was like I got baptized with water, but like right afterwards, like ever since then, really, I just feel like I've been ignited with fire ever since.
Yes.
You know, like that's how it feels.
It's almost like, you know, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego being thrown in the fire, but in a good way. Like you come out and you feel on fire for God.
It's funny that you said that because that's what I was planning on talking about. Like my next podcast that I was going to put do by myself. That's funny that you said that because that's one of my that's a really cool story. Because like the way I look at it, like they go in with like, for those of you that don't know the story, like these guys basically just got like tormented by, I can't remember what the name of the person who did it. Like basically a king. He got like tormented by this king and these three.
King Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, so they got basically like tormented from him because they believe in God. Like all three of them, they're like three friends, and their punishment because they're like, you know, everything they did, they're like, oh yeah, God is my Lord and Savior. Like Jesus is my, you know what I'm saying? Like Jesus is my Lord and Savior. I know like completely who He is. You know, like they just walk with God, and they wouldn't turn away. They wouldn't stray against anything they believed in. So for punishment, they threw him in this. They were gonna kill him and throw him in this furnace.
They were gonna try to kill him.
And whenever they threw him in the furnace, they just sat there and they just kind of, I guess, just like sat there and was just chilling. Like, man, what's up? This is crazy.
Their clothes didn't burn off. Their clothes stayed on them. Their
clothes is the only thing that did burn off of them, and they walked out like So basically, the way I look at it, even whenever they're in the fire, you know, the king's two like best warriors like walked up to like check like what is wrong with this, and they disintegrated and burned to death. Yeah. And then they're like, oh my God, like what's happened to these guys? And he lets them out. And the only thing that burned off of them was like their robes that they went in there with. So it's almost like the only thing they went in was like the ways of this world. And they came out with just themselves
And there was a fourth man in the fire.
Was there? Yeah, exactly.
Jesus was the one with them in the fire. And he delivered them from dying to Nebuchadnezzar's, you know, pagan beliefs that he was trying to push on everyone. He even stripped them of their biblical names that they had as Jews. And that was the first thing he did, but he didn't strip away their faith.
Yeah, dude, that's like a crazy story. And now I don't even know what to talk about next time. I'll have to figure it out. That story is so powerful.
Keep going on it.
Yeah,
honestly.
you can.
You can expand so much from that.
You got anything else in your notes you wanted to bring up?
Oh, yeah. So the importance of judgment, jealousy, and gossip in general. The Bible says we have the power of life and death in our tongue. If we are speaking death upon people, almost everything we do and say comes to fruition. So when we say something and we're like speaking death necessarily to people, it's going to push them down and may even cause them to fall away from God or push them away, or they might even, you know, take their own life, unfortunately.
And you have you can look at this from both perspectives. Like it takes the same amount of effort to give somebody a positive comment as it does a negative comment. And what are they really going to get more out of the positive comment? Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? And like, it doesn't cost anything. Mm-mm. And then from the other side, it's like it's almost like it doesn't matter what you have. Like the one hate comment, like someone could tell you you're wearing your favorite shirt, and you walk in and every single day these 20 people are telling you, dude, that shirt looks amazing. Oh yeah. You know, you're like, yeah, but that one day someone's like, dude, I hate that shirt. That shirt looks so bad on you. You're like, but I wore it these other 20 times, and these guys are like always told me that it looked good, and this one guy tells me no, and it's like, I'm gonna go hang that shirt in the closet. I'm never gonna wear it again, because that one bad comment outweighs the 20 positive comments that you got, and that's just how life is. And like, why hate on somebody like that? You know,
the best symbol in the Bible, or not was it the best, but one of the best, is teaching you to pour into others' cups instead of pouring in your own. Pouring into another's cup is helping them out when they need it, speaking life into them, giving them super like amazing compliments that make them feel so good. Because when you see them doing good in life, it pours into your own cup, and you feel a sense of, wow, I basically just talked to him, and now he's doing so good. That can only be from God.
Yeah, it's like that allegory of long spoons. Like, I'm taking everything that I've been blessed with, my time, my talent, and my treasures, and I'm using it to feed other people. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes it's reciprocated, and sometimes it may not be, but I guarantee you feel better for helping that person out.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Like, I've learned I'm quite selfless, and just making sure my friends are happy, no matter what situation it is, makes me happy. Obviously, certain situations, like a bar situation, that's my downfall. But I've learned to not put myself in
I'm a people pleaser. Like, I want everybody.
Yeah.
I noticed that because I think this is like one of those things where God uses your past and, you know, brings stuff in the future and uses it for good. Because of who I was in that circle, like I was that outcast, and I was that person that didn't say too much. Whenever we're in a group of 10 or 15 people and someone's not saying anything, I make sure I'm like, hey man, like, what's up? Like, what's wrong? Like, you can talk too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm that person now. Because it's almost like I was that person. I don't want no one to feel the same way I did. Because I know how I felt, and I didn't like the way I felt.
Yeah.
So let me go make sure like that person's okay. Like,
that's why I always tell people,
go talk over them. And
if you don't fit in the situation, you're not in the right situation. You haven't found 100%. The right people. Like, all my friends in high school were probably considered outcasts, but I was lucky to, not say lucky, I was blessed enough to get along with everyone. I've really never made enemies in high school. When it came to help people in class, I did it just because I was the one who was able to, and I liked to help people. As long as they wanted to help. There were times where I got stuck in a group project, and the teacher's like, these guys aren't doing too well in my class. I'm going to put them in your group so you can help them. And I'm like, awesome.
Yeah, that means I got to do all the work.
Yeah, so whenever they didn't want to do the work, and I'm like, all right, if I'm doing all this work, you guys are presenting, and I'm going to stand back. And most time, some would help me, and some were up there nervously presenting, but I'm like, I'm not letting you get by from my hard work. I'm trying to help you at the end of the day. So if you don't want the help, I mean, you're your own downfall.
And also, like, some of the stuff, like, you use like that example as like a group project. Like, okay, I might be good at taking notes, or another person might be good at what the actual experiment is, and another person might be really good at presenting the whole thing. But whenever you all come together, you create like this masterpiece.
Yeah, it always becomes like, even if I got a group that didn't really do anything, I got my A. They would get an A if they helped a little bit, because I would, be honest with the teacher. He'd be like, all right, did this person help? I'd be like, yes, they tried to help me, and they would draw something on the poster, write something. They actually even read the text. Now, he's like, did that guy help? And I'm like, he didn't really help, but he did present. Yeah. He was behind the board holding it up. I mean, he got some credit, so he would grade us accordingly. But I liked helping the people who, didn't learn the best in school. Like, I remember really nice kid. I believe he's on the autism spectrum, but super nice. I mean, a lot of people would just give him the answer. So he would just write it down. He didn't actually learn it. So I would take my time, like, I'm not giving you the answer, man. I'm going to teach you so you know what you're doing. He's like, but I want the answer. I'm like, no, I'm not going to just give it to you, because if I do that, you don't learn anything, and you're just going to pass the class somehow. I don't know how.
And I feel like thinking about that, like using what you just said as an example, like that's how like God is with us.
Yes.
You're like, God, please take me out of this bad moment, or this bad thing that's happening right now.
Teach me to, do something better.
Take me out of this bad storm. It's like, no, like you're meant to deal with that bad storm, and then you're going to come out of it stronger because of it.
You grow from it. You learn from the circumstances you get put in. Like the divorces, I tell people are like, how did you go through 4 divorces? I'm like, honestly, it wasn't that bad. I mean, you stick by your parents' side. You walk them through it. If they get with someone who is terrible, I mean, I've had definitely one bad stepdad who ended up killing himself, drank himself to death. He started out great, and at the end, he just got more and more into alcoholism for some reason, even though my mom was giving her best all the time, actually. I didn't see them argue a whole lot toward the end. And I mean, when it comes to a divorce, stick by your parents' side. Try to build them up. Be like, hey, I know you didn't marry the right person when you had me. That's okay, but you got me out of it at the end of the day. So I'm going to support you until we find another person for you.
And I know, like, I mean, I've never talked about this yet, but like my parents are been divorced for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now, and like I'm still like dealing with that. Like, so I know that's tough.
Oh yeah.
To go through 4, and I'm like, I had such a good relationship with my dad after everything that happened, and it's just like, man, like, what do I do now? You know, and I mean, me and my dad, you know, are slowly building everything back, and I think we're in a very good place now. And then, you know, it's like with my mom. You know, my mom is hurting from everything, and it's just like, you know, I have to get her back on board and get her, you know, to pick her up and help her out.
She hasn't grown from it.
And it's a tough way to balance it, because it's like both of them, whenever you talk to them, are basically like, oh, it's this one's fault. Oh, it's this one's fault. That's how mine is. Like, oh, it's their fault. That you know what I'm saying? And they both have their own reasoning behind it. But it's like, listen, I know I'm caught in the middle, but I don't really want to be caught in the middle. I just want to love you both where you're at, and I want to help you get to somewhere better.
The funny thing is, my mom and my dad still, like, mostly my dad will bring up something happened in the past when he was married to mom. Like, I just brush it off. I'm like, they're different people now. Like, why are you still bringing this up? My dad is a narcissist, so he's always right in his mind, and that's his curse. And he doesn't realize sometimes. I definitely notice it. My mom just brushes. My mom will bring up my dad, and she's like, I don't want to talk bad about your dad because he's your dad. And I'm like, cool, I can respect that. My dad just be like, your mom used to, and I'm just like, okay.
I'm telling you, like,
whatever you say.
I feel like everyone deals with that in a different way, and you have to think of it from like, both of them are really coming from a place of hurt. You know, and you almost have to put yourself in their shoes, and you may not always do the right thing in the moment, or like something happens and you may like think you're wrong, but it's just like, no matter what, if one's hurt, you got to still stand by their side. Be like, listen, I know what happened. I feel for you. You know, I'm always here if you want to talk about it. You know, like, I don't judge you for what's happened. Like, I'm at the point where I forgive them. I'm like, they're where they're at right now, and I can only love them where they're at.
Right. And sometimes you got to be the middleman, and sometimes that's okay. Like, if you have to counsel both sides, that's where God placed you, and that you're there for a reason. Yeah.
And hopefully they not only, like, you know, now I feel like they can see my relationship with God and also go from that, and it's going to influence them. You know, sometimes it's like,
for sure,
you know, God works in weird ways. God uses, you know, the son to bring out the best in their parents. You know what I'm saying? Like, that, it just happens that way sometimes. Or sometimes, like, you know, if I had a kid or something, you know, which I will, you know, hopefully somewhere down the road, but like, it's like paving a way, and then like your son's going to come back and he's going to pave it a little bit wider. Like, that's just sometimes how it is. I think I talked about that with Ricky, with his son, the other day.
For sure.
I'll have him on the podcast at some point too. I mean, he has an amazing, I think he's one of the best storytellers there is, I think.
Ricky is
I never know what he's going to say.
Storyteller. Sometimes they may not be true, but I mean,
we love
most
him
of it
way.
Is, but it's still like a great story to listen to, even though if like most of it's exaggerated. It's just like
he's
in the
so
moment,
funny.
he's a character.
It's funny because it's like, I'm telling you, he'll tell me something, I'm like, if you say that's true, like, all right. And
okay.
He literally, I told him, I was like, bro, I want you to be on the podcast one day.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I'm totally down for that. I was like, but I'm not, just to let you know, I'm not writing anything down. I'm like, I was like, I don't know what to expect whenever he comes on. And that's just going to be his personality.
Yeah.
I know.
He's probably going to tell a lot of stories, but I mean, he is such a great testimony that I think everyone has.
He does.
It's definitely, whether you were in the same situation or not, you can definitely benefit from hearing from it. Yeah, one thing my dad needs to be better at is he's gotten better about his narcissism, but he needs to start like speaking more life, being optimistic. I mean, I'm for one believe that if you're a Christian, you've got to be optimistic. Like you've got to look at the brighter side. You know, of course you got to take in what happens in the real world, but like you also got to be like think of the positives. Always like if you're in a situation, there were like through my mom's divorces. There were some terrible times, but there's also some times where I really bonded with my mom and it helped us grow to where we are today. So always look for the good things in the situations you've been through.
And like I think I talk about this with like Jill, my fiance, all the time, and it's like you have to like you always want to look towards the future, like where I want to get better every single day, and I want to be better, and I want to write down goals to be the best I can be next year, and write down goals that I want to accomplish or stuff like that. But you have to be satisfied with where you're at too. Like, man, look how far I've come. And it's equaling that out. Like I'm so bad at doing that because I'm like always looking for the future and always looking where I can get better, and I want to be better than I guess it's who I am as a person. I want to constantly grow, but I always want to be like I'm happy. Like, thank you, God, for where I'm at right now and for getting me out of all these dark places and to making me the man I am today. But like I also want to get better. Like that's like my head behind it all.
I mean, you should be striving for growth every
100%.
day. Like I'm very thankful for the job God has given me, where I live, the people I'm around, everything. But I'm also like, I can't wait till this happens next year, or I'm really looking forward to the growth of a new business happening at work. And there's nothing wrong with looking towards the future. It's just live in the now.
Yeah, live in the moment.
But look forward to the future, and always, if you can, line things up for the future in a good way.
Yeah, live in the moment and work your butt off every single day. That's just how it is.
Grind. I think grinding has a lot of purpose. Like the system I made was just done through a lot of grinding. I still grind. I can grind 4 to 5 hours a day, but it makes my day go so fast, and it's so rewarding.
And it's like I've seen this quote the other day where it's like, it says 9 to 5. Like this is where a lot of people I think struggle in today's world. It's like 9 to 5 is what builds your present, but your 5 to 9 is what builds your future.
That's true.
And that's so good, and that's so true because a lot of people I fall in the habit of this sometimes too. Like I go home and I play video games and I just want to chill and I don't want to do anything else after I get off.
Yep, me too.
But then I gotta go home and I gotta put in work, and I have to wake up way earlier than that, and I'm putting in work at the gym. I'm trying to just constantly find new ways to learn something new and to get better, and I feel like you are very good at doing that.
Thank you. Learning is definitely one of the best things you can do for yourself. Like if you are bored, I used to be like a space cadet. I swear when I was younger, I just stare off into space and not think about anything. Now I'm like, if I'm not doing anything, I've got to be learning some way. Like most of the videos I watch on YouTube could range from video games, science, woodworking, a whole variety, but at least somewhere is like, if it's a video game, I watched a guy who's an engineer in real life. He'll talk about what he's making in the game.
And it's okay to even be like, say like, let's think of like a big influencer right now, like in video games, who's like Jinxie, like playing Rainbow Six, like that guy, that's a big guy, like that's a big name in video games.
Yeah.
There's like 2 ways you can look at it. Like, you can sit there and just watch his videos and be like brain rot, like I'm just sitting there watching his videos. You can like have a notepad out and be like, dude, this is what I could, this is what I could take away from this. Like notepad, be like, this guy, this is what he does. This is how he streams. This is how his camera's positioned. This is,
or
a lot
like
of different things to take it and use it for yourself in some way, shape, or form. You somehow might make it a little different, but you take something away from it. Like my big, like, if I could ever have one famous person on like this podcast, it'd be like Alex Eubank.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now, that guy, and I like take a lot away from his podcast, and I take a lot away from how he works out. Like I take a lot away from that.
Oh yeah.
And he's just a big influencer in general. Like that guy has a strong relationship with God. He has a good physique, and someone to really like look up to. But it inspires other people, and it also like inspires me. And it's like, dang, how is he doing this? You take notes on it. Yeah. You take notes of what he's talking about. You take notes on how his camera is positioned. You know what I'm saying? And what workouts he's doing, how to get better. Like that's the takeaways from it. You can do one or you can do the other. You can just sit there and watch the video.
And you gotta learn like how your brain learns. Like I'm very visual and hands-on at the same time. So like, if someone's making something in a video game, I'm going to pause it, and I'm like, wait, maybe I can try my hand at it and come up with something. And if I get stuck, I'll go back to the video. Or like cooking, I'll find a recipe, and I'm like, I'm not really sure how to do that. I'm see if there's a video on it, and I'll learn and teach myself from the video. Okay, that's how I make that, or that's how I cut that a certain way, or that's the proper technique. Learning is probably the best way you can grow, and I'm at the point where I've got to keep learning, because if I'm not learning anything, I'm not getting smarter. I'm not getting more wisdom that I need.
And something else is a good habit to get into. I don't know if you've done it. You've said it before. I'm not trying to call you out right now. Yeah. Whether you read the Bible every single day or not. I do my best to.
I struggled, but I'm back into it as of 2 days ago, and I just after we finish the gym, I've got 30 minutes to clock in. I just pop in the Bible. And it just it gives you so much peace.
Yes. You're reading His Word, and it just generates a whole new peace. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's filling you with life.
Yes.
Almost.
Yeah,
and that's what it feels like to read before. I try to read the Bible later at night, and then I'll try to read another book in the mornings. I think you see me today. I was in there trying to read a little bit before anyone came in.
For sure, yeah. Starting your day with the Bible is one of the best things you can do for your mood, your relationship with God, of course, and it's a great start to your day.
Even if it's just 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
There's actually
5 minutes a day.
If you don't know where to start, it's it's a big scary book. I don't normally have it in my bag. I don't have it today though. But it's a big scary book. You don't really know where to start. I think where I started is Proverbs and Psalms. And a good place to start is you could read 1 Proverbs a day and 5 Psalms a day, and you get through all of them in a month. If you do that every single day, and I think that's a good place to start, because I can't remember the guy's name that wrote Proverbs, but it's the richest man in the Bible. So why would you not want to learn from a businessman making a lot of money? And then Psalms is written by David, who literally has a heart of God, and he's someone who God loves. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good place to start, I think.
I'm doing the hard thing and just reading it cover to cover.
Yeah, just reading it cover to cover. I could never do that. I could do it, but I'd rather pick it apart. You know what I'm saying? I feel I wouldn't get as much out of it reading it cover to cover.
Stop at Leviticus and Numbers, because it's just law. And there's also a good part of Genesis where they're just listing off a whole family tree. You're just all right, I'm going to skim past that and just keep reading. And that's what I definitely did. But I want to read it cover to cover my first time, because even though I call myself a Christian, I never read most of the Bible. I only heard things at church or things my parents told me. I'm just man, if I call myself a Christian, I really have to live under His Word and really understand it before I can teach people. Because if you try to teach people on something you don't know, you're not teaching them anything. You're almost lying to them.
And I feel that's a difference between if someone asks me, man, are you Christian?
Yeah.
No. I'm a man of God. That's the difference. Yep. I read the Bible. I try to, learn by His Word every single day and teach other people. That is what a man of God is supposed to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a Christian is just I go to church on Sunday.
Yeah. I go to church. I listen.
I'm not calling you out right now either. It's so good to go to church, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just end there. You shouldn't
church
just
should
leave,
be
and that should
your
be
stepping stone to lean you toward a relationship with God. Church for me right now, after getting saved, is school. I treat it like I'm continuing to learn, and you're worshiping too, but you also need time to.
If you go there and learn, but whenever you go home, you got some homework to do. Yeah, that's how it is. You got some homework to do,
and you need to start putting things into practice. What you've learned, you don't just. Oh, okay, yeah, that was really good on Sunday, and then the whole week you live a different life. No, you need to apply what you learn through Scripture and what you learn in church when your pastor's talking to you. Yeah, his job is just to make sure you understand the Scripture, and our pastor does so good. I've been to a ton of churches my whole life, but our church really stands out.
Yeah, anybody in the Gainesville area, Canvas is, I'm telling you, the place to go.
There's go to Canvas if you want something different. It's non-denominational, which honestly is how we all should be. There shouldn't be any rules or order or strictness that prevents you from going to church, because that's why Jesus died, is because that was happening in the Old Testament. And non-denominational literally just means you simply interpret the Bible and you want to pour into others and help others to learn more about Jesus. At the end of the day, we all need him. You cannot get through life and be happy and prosperous without knowing him. You could have everything you ever wanted. You could be super famous, and at the end of the day, money's not going to do it. Your job isn't going to do it. And the only way you can be happy truly is filling that God-sized hole.
Yeah, 100%. And I like what I think it's so good. I think Pastor Mark painted this picture for during like Easter Sunday or something, where it's like this guy that was on another cross next to Jesus that died and was like got up to heaven, and he's like talking. It's like
the thief.
He's like, "Hey man, do you have a relationship with God?" He's like, "No." Like, "Did you like save people?" Like, it's like, "No." He's like, "No, I was an alcoholic. I was a drunk. Like, I stole from people." He's like, "Well, what are you doing here?" He's like, "The man on the middle cross told me I could come."
Yeah.
Like that's how it is. Like whenever you just release some stuff and you repent of your sins and you really submit to God, he just like takes away everything that you've done.
Oh yeah.
And he takes it all away and uses it for good and in just different ways.
Like I've probably judged a lot of people in my life while I was a lukewarm Christian. Now I'm just like, you know what? Now that I've been saved and I've changed, I can look back at that and be like, I'm forgiven for that because I'm wanting to change. I'm trying. We learn to not live in sin. We're human. We're always going to sin. But it's what you do from learning that you're in sin is what makes you going to go into the kingdom of heaven and become someone who can get others to go with you. Mm-hmm. Is you've got to live past sin. And that's what the whole world is caught up in right now, is living in sin and normalizing it.
Yeah. That's just how the world operates now. Like they live in sin, they stay in sin, and
heaven is God's realm. Earth is the devil's realm. And people don't realize that, but that's why evil happens in the world, because we are not of this world. We are here. God made this world, but that's not our purpose. Originally, before the original sin with Adam and Eve, we were supposed to be on earth. But after sin into the world, because of Satan, that was not his plan from the get-go.
Yeah, and I'm actually reading that book now. You seen me reading it this morning, the Outwitting the Devil book, and it talks about how people get in that habit of drifting, and how that's how the devil has it. If you've never read that book, it's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And it talks about how like people get in this habit of, going out and drinking and really just all the different ways they can really just fall in a habit of falling in like normalizing the everyday just like ways of this world, like with porn and with drinking and with drugs and with partying, and how the devil really just has you like in his grips the entire time. It really talks about like the different ways to get out of that and how to grow and how to be better and how to, make your own business and how to really just like stop making the devil like think for you, think for you and have you like capture, and how to start thinking for yourself. And I think it's so good.
Learn discipline, take control, seek God, fight the enemy. But when you are seeking God, the enemy is going to hit harder than he has in your entire life. But you've got to push through. No, admitting you have a problem is the first step. Acting on it is another, and then fighting that spiritual battle that comes with it.
Yeah, fighting your flesh.
It's going to put you over the edge so you can teach other people
how to overcome what you're struggling with and what you just, struggled with for years and years. Like that's what's so great about it. It's like, one side.
The best part is the other side, yes, but the only way to get to the other side is going through it. And what's really going to help you get over it is teaching other people how to stray away from it. Or if they're in it, get them out of it.
100%. You got anything else you want to bring up? Or?
Definitely. We have a huge problem in our culture and just the world's culture, period. The music we listen to has so much impact on our lives and the mental health crisis that's happening all over the world.
I don't think it's just music. We were talking about this today. I don't think it's just music. It's just what we consume in general.
Everything. Consumption is so important. I just realized this about 2 days ago, that sometime in 9th grade, while I was waiting for the bus, I listened to music. And I got to the point where I'd listen to, some sort of station on maybe Amazon Music or the radio. It gets to the point where, I really want more control on what I listen to. So I started buying all of my music from that day forward. I bought a ton of Skillets, like super awesome Christian rock band. I bought 80s because I'm an 80s through and through. I'm wearing ZZ Top. Like I may not have grown up in that era, but I learned all their music when I was a kid. And I realized buying the music set me up for who I am now, to where I don't care what's on the radio. I despise what they play on the PG radio that I doubt's PG, because most of the lyrics and the songs we have today are perverse, they are provocative, they are vile, especially for young kids. Like, we don't need to be listening to that. Like, we do not need to be listening to rap at a young age, because you absorb so much at a young age. It's so important to what you put yourself through. And as parents, like, what do we give our kids? Like,
100%.
I grew up listening to Z88.3 and then the 80s. And probably some of the 80s stuff, is a little perverse, but they're not as, like, out in the open as they are today. So not only what you listen to, what you're watching.
Yeah, if you're watching it, if you're like someone who gets triggered a lot from like porn and stuff, if that's something you struggle with, that's like one of the first things you have to take away. You know what I'm saying? If you're watching a whole lot of movies with like sex scenes in there, you're watching a lot of movies that like set that up. Like it may not happen, but you know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes if that's what triggers you, you have to take that away. And social media, if it's social media, you might have to go unfollow some people.
Definitely.
There are bad influences and like cause that trigger to happen again. Like, and that's something that a lot of men are struggling with now, is porn. Like it is. And I struggled with it for the longest time growing up. And up until probably about like a year and a half ago is when I finally felt like I got a good grasp on it.
I'm in that battle right now, and I felt like it was different from being a virgin my entire life pretty much. I've never really wanted to have that with someone until I'm married, and I felt like it was different, but at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's the same sin, lust. Lust is one of the biggest sins in the Bible. There's probably some others bigger, but even King David struggled with it, and he was such a man after God, but he
man after God's own heart is really like the definition of him.
Yes, absolutely.
It's something everybody's struggling with now, and it takes like a real man to really admit that. It does.
Probably a year ago, I wouldn't admit it to anybody, but now I'm at a point where I'm like, the only way to get over it is admitting I have the problem and seeking others who also
have had that problem and have overcame that problem, or maybe sometimes it's even still working on that problem.
For sure.
And that's what it takes to really just like you, and it forms a deeper relationship with that person too.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh man, like, what, you're struggling with that too? Like, you used to struggle with that too? Like, man, like. And it's so uncomfortable to talk about, but once you talk about it, it's like, man.
I remember...
it's so released after that. Like, okay, this is all on the board now. I got all my dark secrets out of there. It's gone.
Oh, yeah. I remember during my Men of Honor program at Canvas, my boss now, we were like meeting one day, because we have to meet with our accountability partner before every meeting as part of being in the program. Otherwise, you can get kicked out if you didn't do it. And I remember one time he was just like, dude, you struggle with porn? I was like, yes I do. He's like, I could tell from the first time we met. I'm like, what? You just do. I guess God had told him.
It's literally like 9 out of every 10 men struggle with that. And it goes deeper than just men. I think women struggle with it sometimes too.
We're in the digital age, guys.
Yeah, like, you can get...
This thing is good. It is also very bad, but it's so easy to find stuff. Like our parents, back in the day, 80s, you found magazines. You go to the stores, you maybe found them on your parents' bed, your pillow. You went to the store when you were supposed to, and you bought them. You had someone maybe wait outside, you pay them, and they gave you the magazines. Now it's just like,
so digital,
do it anywhere.
You can find it anywhere really. And it's like adds like that triggers. Like mine was like TikTok. I had to take TikTok away. Like I was like scrolling, there was some stuff on there like I didn't even really want to see. Like I was never like going out there looking for it, but sometimes it'd like pop up and I'm like, man.
TikTok's one of the easiest things. I downloaded it, I had it for maybe a few months, and then I realized one day, I'm like, you know what? It's It's like a lot of my time. Even the first day, I was like, I just spent 30 minutes scrolling, and what did I didn't really get
anything out of. Yeah, I deleted
then
TikTok like about a year and a half ago, probably about the same time I was overcoming that.
Watching a CPAC on TikTok, and it was explaining its evil agenda, and I was like, from that day forward, I don't need this. There's a lot better things I could do with my time. I could be learning.
100%.
Most important thing is guarding your heart. The Bible talks about guarding your heart, watching what you consume, all forms, whether that's watching, even eating to a degree, I'd imagine, and just what you listen to altogether. Everything you surround yourself with leads to something good or something bad. There's life and death in what I believe, even what we consume. In Proverbs 4:23 through 27, it says, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issues of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth, and put perverse lips far from you. Let your eyes look straight ahead, and your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet, and let all your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil." Another good one is John 14:27. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives to you. Let your heart be troubled, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." We are not supposed to find peace in the things of this world. We find peace through God, His Word, and His Son Jesus at the end of the day. And that's why you could have everything in this world, but if you don't have Jesus, you have nothing. So when we go to heaven, we don't take anything with us but ourselves. And the things we've accomplished are what goes in the Lamb's Book of Life, what decides, if we're worthy or not.
And that's like a lot of, I think I've heard this said before, and it's like, as parents, say you're multi-millionaire, you can leave your kids all that money and they could just go blow it.
Yeah.
Or you could leave them the mindset to, one, make that money, and you leave them like a whole relationship with God, and you've shown them the right way to live and what to do and how to bless other people. Like, that's the greatest thing you could ever leave them.
It's back pouring into another cup.
That's pouring into somebody else in a whole different generation.
Teach as many people as you can with the gifts and talents God has given you. I know I have the gift of technology. I can teach people sometimes. I may not always be able to. I also have the gift of just listening. Listening is such a big gift that people don't realize. Like, you're just listening to someone, what they're going through, helps them so much. And when you take on that responsibility of being a listener, don't share with other people if they ask you not to. That's one thing I struggled with last year that definitely caused some ripples in some relationships I have now. We're better now. He's forgiven me. I feel bad about it, but I'm like, when someone comes to you and confides in you, you got to keep that. And maybe just pray about it with God. It's the only person you should talk about it with, God and the other person who came to you. Yeah, it's so important to just sit back and listen. Be slow to anger. If you're in a conversation, a lot of arguing going on, wait for the peace and then say something. Because you can learn a lot from other people say, and they have a lot to tell you.
And it takes me a second to process some stuff anyways. Like, if someone tells me some bad news or some bad information or like says something bad about me, it's just it takes me a second to be like, how should I respond to this in the best way? It's one, that I'm okay with saying, first of all, and it's not going to hurt my feelings and their feelings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to, be cautious of what you say and the words that you use.
For sure.
I mean, sometimes your words can be sharp like a knife in a bad way.
Yep.
And you can also do that in a good way, and you could really speak life into somebody.
The Bible says our tongue is a two-edged sword.
Yeah, it can go either way. All right, you ready to get out of here and pray it out? Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yep.
You want to pray us out, or you want me to do it?
Go for it.
Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for my friend Hunter. And God, I just pray that you use what we've talked about today, and you use all the verses, and you use everything that you spoke into us, God. And I pray that you use it to bless other people. And I pray you use it to just equip them with with purpose, God, and you just use it to bring out the best in themselves so they could use it for somebody else, God. I pray that you heal people and you help them with everything that they're struggling with. And even though sometimes it might be uncomfortable to admit it to somebody else that they're struggling, that they're able to admit it to somebody else. And you give them the power to be able to do that and to be okay with that so they can release the stuff that they're struggling with. And if there's anybody listening to this that doesn't know God, I just want you to repeat after me. God, more of you and less of me. Thank you for sending Jesus to die on the cross for me. God, will you please just take away my pain and my suffering. And God, just take away all the bad things that I've done in my past. And God, take them away and use them for good, God, in my future. God, let everything that I've been through ignite somebody else. And just help them get through this dark season that they're going through, God. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Tune in next week.